All right, we're going to give this a shot. No guarantees on any of this. Anybody watching, we are checking out Damascus Cafe. We are enjoying some beautiful and delicious drinks.
Yes, we are indeed.
And we're getting ready to chat dog. How did you put it? Unscripted?
Unscripted Sunday shenanigans. Love it.
All right. So I'm Melanie Steele. I'm the trainer behind Steele Canine Foundations. This came together as part of PawFest 2021, which is happening online live right now.
Right.
This is about my 10th coffee in 2 days, so no guarantees.
It's my 10th today. Jokes. Definitely my fourth.
So there is a grooming seminar happening right now up at Pine Glen Rec Center with Posh Poochies by Brienne. That's a mouthful every time I try and say it. Love you. And then there is a CGN testing this afternoon. As long as you are double vaxxed and can show proof of ID, you're welcome to come check it out. Everything is outside, rain or shine. So
pretty day.
Check it out. It is. It's not raining like it was this morning.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yes.
And this is Katie. So I'm going to let her introduce herself as well.
Hi, I'm Katie. I run Dogma Moncton. I'm a dog trainer. Been training dogs for about 10 years here. Started training, I guess, when I was living in Taiwan. I was there for about 5 years, and I adopted probably about 20 strays, and I had like 12 puppies and stuff. And I was used to take care of them all, and I used to capture them, neuter them, and release them, and get veterinary care for a lot of the dogs out on the street, and try to raise awareness for the people there when I was living there. So then I came home, and now here I am. I decided to become a professional trainer, and now I'm living my best life.
I love it.
As best I can, anyway.
I love it. That's my dream.
Right. Well, you're doing it.
No,
good job.
I still work full time. So this is still my part-time gig.
You're doing awesome, though.
Yeah. It's the passion, and
exactly.
My husband loves it.
Good.
All right.
All good.
So one of the reasons I wanted to chat with Katie was because she's got a really interesting spin, and now I'm starting to get the story behind it with living in Taiwan and how it all kind of came together.
Yes.
So I'm gonna sit back and listen to the story here for a bit,
and
then we'll start.
Did I tell you I'm a terrible storyteller? I'm just joking. I'm like the worst joke teller of all time, but I can probably tell you the story.
All right, do tell.
All right, so I guess where I am now is I guess where should I start? Like I said, was working with a lot of dogs overseas, and in particular, just trying to raise awareness about how they operate as species when I come back. So I've taken all of that information that I gathered from them, and has brought it back here. So I became a professional dog trainer. I went to the Animal Behavior College, which is out of Santa Barbara, California. And then I had my skills certified in Nova Scotia. Anyway, through Bob Ottenbright, and he runs Lee Tash Canine. Great guy. Anyway, so like when you're taking your obedience training and you become a certified professional trainer for some of the schools, like it's you just learn basic stuff. So you as naturally through anything, you kind of grow and evolve your own kind of style over time, which you have as well. And so I've kind of like through my experiences learned from very basic stuff to being skilled at being intuitive, because I believe that in order to be a good trainer, you have to kind of be able to assess that particular situation and know that there's not one particular fix that fits one particular, situation. So in understanding that, I've taken a lot of the knowledge that I gained by just observing dogs naturally over there, and I've brought it to these situations where I believe the foundational problem with a lot of the dog issues going on, like problem solving at people's homes in general, are because they don't understand dogs too much anymore.
I agree with that as well.
Right. So you and I, we talked about, you had some great ideas that we're going to talk about, like the needs hierarchy and
the Lima approach has been amazing for me.
Yes. Exactly. Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. I 100% love it. So, and that's a big movement I find which I'm seeing that I think is fantastic. There's more of a move to like fear-free based training methods, as the primary, working together as a team, understanding the species, blah, 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 all these great things. And then like cooperative compassionate care, which is, things that these are big words that we're throwing out right away. So did anybody know that I'm like right out the gate, always like full on? So
your cough.
Anyway, so I kind of like jumped around a bit, which I do. But yeah, basically, so like, I believe that in order to better understand dogs, then, we take information from what the species itself does. And I did that by observing dogs naturally and wildly over there. We've seen it on TV. We understand how they exist. So I try to replicate that, and I've adopted it into kind of like my own style, which I mostly incorporate a lot of like blocking and trying to build focus through like leadership exercises, which any good dog trainer would do, in my opinion. So these are the kinds of things that I like to do, and I hope that kind of answers your question.
It does. And I'm full of questions. I know you know that already.
I am too, and I think any good learner is.
If you take a look at my profile, it basically said, thank you to everybody that's listened to me ask questions along the way, because that's how I do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the first question I have is, I know you put a lot towards like Zen and the Zen living, Dogma itself.
Yes.
Just put that into my head.
And that's hilarious because I impulsively was like, literally, if you just heard me, I breathe deeply quite often. And people might misinterpret that for me being stressed out, but that's me centering myself. Because I believe, animals are especially very intuitive and empathetic little creatures. This is why we have like therapy animals and things like that. So the answer about the Zen stuff is, there I go again, taking my deep breath. We have to center ourselves before we provide information in order to express the right type of emotion that we're trying to convey. So if you want your dog to come down from reactivity, you yourself must, emulate that calmness. So
I had to learn that with Callum. Because I was, the turnaround was when somebody basically said, that he's the mirror image of you.
Exactly.
And it happened, and then within like a week, my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD. Within like 2 weeks, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I looked at the dog and went, I get it now.
Right, exactly.
Hence a lot of the awareness of it has been amazing.
Absolutely. And so I really feel that it's important to include a lot of like, calming strategies, and to understand that like we need to ourselves calm down. That's hilarious. You mentioned like, mirroring.
On my nose. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
I have a bite on my face, a little love nip gone bad with a puppy. So don't feel bad. We've all got things going on here. With
it's
our
COVID,
faces.
right? And I'm like touching my nose. So I'm like, people, I think I have a dog hair. Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. We're not. It's all good. We're keeping.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Don't worry about it. So where were we talking about there? We were talking about.
So coming down so the dog can.
Yes. So like a lot of the times people don't realize that, we have a role in our actions are leading the dogs into folly. So I always try to raise awareness about that, is that type of negative framing with the corrections type based, approach where a dog does something and impulsively we as humans want to be like, no, and shout at them, which then technically frames the situation, and they don't understand our logic and ration. So they immediately project our frustration onto what they're viewing. So, it's really important, or they can.
I like that.
Right. So I think that's very important for us to understand that if we want our dog to have a good perception of the world, same with our children too. Like if we're not that different, then we must try to project that Zen state. So that, yogis, breathing, all these wonderful things. It sounds all hokey pokey granola, but it works.
It does.
I have diffused many a dangerous dog through non-confrontational body language. Don't look in the eyes, hold and breathe.
Yeah.
And then they can feel that, because they will reciprocate whatever you are yourself putting out. They will return it back to you. So if you want your dog to be calm and balanced, then you yourself must prepare yourself by being calm and balanced.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. I like that.
Yay. Good. Thanks.
Yeah, I've been holding on some of these questions for a while, because I'm like, this is interesting. Tell me more.
Cool.
So do you do that quite a bit? Because I find I do that quite a bit. Compare my kids and my dogs.
Always. It's all the same.
My last class, I was like, all right, who has kids? And nobody had kids. I was like, oh, I'm toast. I'm absolutely done.
Oh, no,
because like all my analogies are
totally. They're great. It's a great way to connect with people as well. And like, it is psychology and repetitions and science, like science-based training methods. So the art of redirection is key to dependence, as I would call them, like your dependents, your dogs, your kids, your whatevers. Like, it's about, breaking the fixation state where a kid's trying to do something and you're like, instead of getting negative with them and framing it and creating a negative situation where you're negatively reinforcing a bad behavior pattern through, getting upset. It's like, oh, what's this over here? And they're like, oh, so yeah, you can, it's all trickery. Trickery.
Oh, completely.
Total trickery.
And I use threshold a lot too when I'm talking about stuff like that, because what do we all do naturally? Like you said, we wait until the dog is reacting. We wait until the dog is barking. We wait until the dog is lunging. And then we're like, oh, no, let's stop this.
Right.
And the one that really hit home for me was when I was like, all right, so kids are in a temper tantrum. Can I teach them anything?
Not at that exact moment. Not really.
Faith's going to kill me. But when she was younger, she took them so bad that I remember sitting and like, bear hugging her just so she didn't like beat her or whatever until she just calmed down. I know. Yeah, I wasn't hurting her. I was
of course not.
And Easton's the same. Like if he's off on a tangent, there's no helping him.
Well, so they're in the red zone.
Yeah.
They're not
So
thinking.
why would I wait until my dog is losing its shit and then try and be like, no, that doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we talk a lot with threshold in my classes and my privates.
Yes, absolutely. And those, which is a great place to start off on, like the next possible like topic is alert signals, right? Like body indicators are what I use to train. So like, for example, you're talking about loss of control and, reactivity, and my, like, people are blown away. I love it when you see that light bulb ding happen when you're like, look at all these indicators, look at these signs. I absolutely love it when I have a dog who's sitting there who's semi-stressed and like they're panting. I'm going through the run through. I'm telling them about like your dog's nose licking, it's darting eyes. Look at, like I tell them when the dog is sitting, like you can see the expansion and contraction of the abdomen. They're panting, and then I'm like, and then I take out an item of interest and the dog holds breath. Stomach contracts and lifts. They close, like they come forward with their ears, their eyes widen, and they're like staring. So it's like, okay, so that's your dog's alert posture right before you lose it. So people, then I say these are the markers that we're like that we're going to use to train your dog at threshold, because that's a certain threshold that you're that you're arriving at, that you're going to lose control. So watch for the ascension of these patterns and you will know, so.
Exactly. I've been asked a lot, how are you predicting this? Right?
It's
and
like reading a book.
Because I'm looking at something and I'll be like, go.
Right.
And they're like, how did you know they were going to go?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. Exactly. It's an awareness. It's a gift.
It's like we're psychic.
Yeah, totally. Psychic.
Let's not go there. Sunday morning shenanigans, right? But yeah, no, and it all boils down to, I loved how you put it in your promo, the communication part, the whole part that went black, and I was like, I love it.
Right, thanks.
But just dogs talk dog, human talks human.
They do.
My little guy laughs at me constantly because I'll say, well, the dog told me this. And he's like, how? What did the dog just say?
Right, yeah. Totally.
But yeah, just kind of that idea of the more that you know, the more that you are aware of your dog, not every dog, of your dog and those points, it's amazing. I have a German Shepherd client and I'm just constantly saying, watch your ears.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch your ears.
Always.
That's it.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing is like, I teach people, especially for like walking and like you mentioned, reactivity issues, that a lot of the problems are people are kind of like not present with what's going on with their animal. They're more present, focusing on stress triggers, scanning the environment, fixating on the environment themselves, and then they're wondering why their dog is scanning the environment and fixating on the problems. So again, going back to that mirror concept and, trying to, again, come back to the Zen kind of aspect where you have to yourself be calm and balanced and
and
firm,
react.
right?
So the reaction,
non-negative reaction necessarily, just this is what we're doing. So assigning new things to when the presence of these triggers arrive to break the focus. So, you know, I'm like I said, where I'm walking with my clients and telling them, like, you need to now train yourself. It's all about people reflex training. So training the handler to themselves, focus on the animal that they can control and not focus on that which they cannot control, which is the external environment. Watching for those indicators of the ears changing because they're, you know, going to come forward, watching for that pause where they freeze and then the neck coming higher, the puffing of the chest. Right? So
I'm big and scary. And when it's like a chihuahua, it's horrible. But you still have
those
to treat it the same.
The fury is more intense with the little guys usually.
My mom has one. It used to try and bite my hands, and I'd be like, really?
Ouch.
Really? Like, no, stop.
All right.
But no, interesting that you brought that up because I was just talking yesterday with one of my clients. We've been working for a while. And we talked about reaction because this dog, the alert was so fast. It was going 0 to 60.
Right.
So every time this dog went over threshold like that, and of course we all had a party because what do we all do?
Right.
And you're going with your leash and everything else.
Right.
So one day we were at class and I just said, okay, just stop. And so the dog started barking. I got her to just maintain pressure.
Yes.
Not pull.
Yep.
Maintain pressure.
Yep.
And then just stand there.
Yep. I've done that before too.
And the dog literally went, bah, bah, bah.
Right.
Mom.
Right.
Like, why aren't you
check.
helping me?
I love that. I use the check to train all the time.
Yeah, it was incredible. And it went from a losing it bark to a kind of bark to a grumble to look at the other dog and turn around and go for the treat.
Right.
They were partying over there now.
Absolutely. So that's actually a form of training, which we were talking about, like knowing terms for training. And people don't realize that they're intuitively using psychological training methods. That's called flooding, kind of almost, because you're allowing the dog to engage with trigger and not giving any feedback until it goes, we're doing this.
Yeah.
So you flood it with its stimulus and don't give it any guidance. Technically, it would. This is a very easy form, and it's not as stressful as another type of flooding. Yeah. But you just allow them to break themselves emotionally down, where they're like, I don't need to bark at this anymore.
Right.
Oh, and then it's like, oh, it's done.
Right. And I use that more of. It's almost like an emergency, like a holy shit situation.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of flooding.
Me neither.
I'm going to push the dog.
No. Well, yeah. That wouldn't adhere to Lima either, really, but I've used it before. I'll use it again.
But now that I found this way, I like it much better.
It's much, absolutely.
But, yeah, so that's kind of one
Makes
of my
sense.
holy shit things. But, in words, I hope this isn't being monitored. I don't have a filter even Sunday morning. But more in terms of trying to get there before the threshold, right? So
right.
Before we hit that, before we get that bark.
Oh, absolutely. Prevention.
Yes.
Prevention. Holla.
Prevention. And we were just talking about extinction.
Yes, I know.
Sorry.
That's
so
okay.
A lot of times I find that what my clients want to do, and not just my clients, I'm sure it's everybody, I used to do this too, is wait for that threshold, right? And that's when I'm going to correct it.
Right.
Either that or just avoid completely. So
that's what a lot of people do, and it doesn't
You're
fix it.
scanning for the dog. Holy shit, I got
I'm outie. Yes, that's it's a Band-Aid approach for sure.
Right. And I've spent a lot of time with reactive clients kind of saying, like, let them look at the dog, or at least let them know it's there. Dogs aren't stupid. They know there's a dog 10 feet over there. 10 feet. Way over there.
Way more like 100,
Yeah. So they know the dog's over there. And if the dog instantly wants to start smelling or something just to relax itself, people don't realize how powerful that is. And they think I'm crazy because I'm like, yay, good dog. And they're like, it's smelling a pea spot.
Right. That's actually a tactic that's been coming around to me. Like, I hear different techniques and tactics, and I know you want to talk about like continuing education. There's so many possibilities. Like, I think that if one person remains rigid in their structure of learning, their rubric of learning, then they're going to miss out on a lot of different stuff. So I tend to like take some in, take some out, test some, and then I get like my clients to kind of test it for me, and then give me feedback, and then I'll kind of throw it in here and there. Yeah. But somebody was telling me that I think it was Lynn with her shepherd, and she was saying that a strategy to help to to break the focus is to throw a bunch of treats and do search in the grass when you see a trigger present itself. So, and in my immediate response to that was, yeah, it's good, but at the same time, it might not deal with it in as like that can help to desensitize, because technically that's a distraction approach, right? Because that's what most like desensitizing is distraction while presenting trigger. But it would work short term, but in the long term, it's again still, in my opinion, kind of like a Band-Aid approach, because you're not dealing with the problem, right? You're distracting from the problem. We still need to deal with the problem. In my opinion,
use it as a reinforcement as well.
Good way of thinking.
What I'll do is,
perception.
So if we see a dog and the dog isn't going over threshold, of course,
yes,
I will do that, because see the dog, treats, treats, good.
Yes,
see dog, get treats, awesome.
Yes.
But at the same time, the foraging, the searching, the eating, sniffing is all those natural calm downs, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So
biting, redirection.
I do not want to go near that dog. But I want to make sure that we're just kind of chilling and reinforcing.
Right.
For knowing the dog is there.
Yes. You can break down the distance threshold there. So this is something that's interesting. So this is so like that's how I train a lot of dogs to do sits days through like positive feedback while there's an approaching trigger. So so you'd have your handler like blocking-ish, not a full block, of course, but half blocking. And then you have like a dog approaching, and you're engaging your animal as the handler, praising them, talking to them. And you will know the threshold of distraction that your dog has per trigger, because they will then immediately through, what's it called here? Peripheral vision, go bing, and they'll notice that there's something approaching them. And that will tell you that their comfort level based on their emotional state with those items. So you can use that to understand when they disengage from the handler or the searching in that scenario that you're talking about, that tells you the threshold of their comfort.
Exactly.
So these are important pieces of data. And people often are like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed that my dog failed. And I'm like, this is excellent data. Like excellent.
My dog failed a lot.
Oh, my dog fails. I fail every day. It's okay.
Well, that's it. I shouldn't say my dog fails. I fail because I just let it happen.
I fail in my own life too, man. But you know what? Failure is the birth of success. Cheers. Happy Sunday.
No, that's interesting. Have you ever followed Grisha Stewart and Bad Approach?
No, I have not.
Oh my God, you need to find her.
Tell me more.
Actually, I'm going to plug a promo in here so I don't have to do it after. I'll just put a poster up.
Sweet.
Grisha, I've done a couple classes through her school. She's down in the States.
Fun.
The one with Dante that I did with, he was in Brazil, I was here.
Oh, fun.
That was through Grisha.
Cool.
So I had reached out to her to see if there was anything we could do for support. She has given me a promo code.
Oh, fun.
Which is PawFest 2021.
That's the promo code. Sweet for you.
And what it gives you is 1 full month's access to her Diamond membership.
Oh,
now,
well then.
It's US. It's $20 off US, which is $10 US instead of $30.
That's okay.
So I currently pay full price every month, just saying. And you guys can try it for a
Gold
month.
member.
But
Diamond, excuse me.
But
Gemstones.
The amount of information in there,
awesome.
She's going to laugh if she sees this, because I totally joined for 1 month to be like, I'm going to see everything I can see and then quit, right?
Then you get hooked.
It's been like a year and I'm still learning, and there's just more coming all the time.
That's awesome.
But
good for you.
Yeah, so anyway, so use the promo code, go in, check her out.
Yeah, totally.
She came up with what she calls BAT training, behavior adjustment. Oh, Melanie, words, brain fart. Anyway.
Threshold. Don't know.
No, I should know this. But anyway, again, she's going to kick my ass. But the whole thing with her is teaching the dog those skills. So using the leash pressure to just kind of let them go to the end of the leash.
And teach them
look around.
Come back.
Naturally want to come back.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yes.
So Callum, I can't demo anymore because he goes to the end of it and instantly turns back for a treat. I'm like, I love this.
That's right, eh? And that's like, that's a good trainer right there. Like that's fine. Yes, I love it.
So
dogs never misbehave. It's like I'm walking and I'm like trying to bait them to fail. Like, go do something so I can recall you. And they're like, not baby.
Well, in class, I throw a treat. He goes to the end and then
it's like,
I know
trick.
This.
It's a trick. Yeah, exactly.
Starting to not even fall for that one.
Right.
But anyway, so it's a lot of these different leash handling skills.
I love leash skills. Love them. So important.
So, and people laugh at me because I'm like, look, you can use one finger to move your dog. And they're like, no. I'm like, here's your really big German Shepherd. I'm moving him with a finger. But
or my voice.
It's teaching all of that stuff. And then what you do is you put in kind of like setups. So you might start like a football field away with a dog that you know, that you've set up.
Yes.
Way down there.
Yes.
And you're kind of letting the dog wander around on its own to be comfortable to get to its own threshold.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So they're not allowed to obviously like boom,
no,
gone.
Definitely.
But
not.
if they want to zigzag up the field and smell and come back to you and all is good, then that's amazing.
Right. Ian Dunbar does these too. Lots of trainers do that. It's awesome.
Yes. Ian Dunbar. I love him.
He's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, continuing education. I listen to more podcasts. My kids hate driving with me now because I won't like listen to music. I'm like, no, plug in your ears. I'm listening to the podcast.
Nice. You're awesome. I'm like not as organized as that. I wish I were. I wish I had more time. I really do. People ask me that question. Me. No, people ask me that question. They're like, what are some things that I can, like, who are some trainers that I can look to? I'm like, honestly, like, I know, but I don't. Like, I like Ian Dunbar. I like Victoria Stilwell. I basically, and my answer for a lot of my things about my life too, like, I hate to say it, but I'm semi-ignorant and I live in a bit of a bubble that I don't have, I kind of do my own thing every day. I live my own life and I don't really, pay attention to the news and stuff because I don't have time and it's awfully negative. So, but yeah, it's important though to be mindful of things like that. And I think that you're right. Like you're talking about trainers like Ian Dunbar. I took a course with him, which I apply. And he's kind of like been a very big part of my training, I guess, development in terms of reactivity, where we do like engage, disengage games with dogs. And it's similar to what you're talking about. Like that's the classical conditioning setup where we introduce triggers at X distance. And then it's all science, man.
It is.
It's total science. I love it. I'm a total nerd. Science nerd.
I'm kind of giggling over here because I listened to Ian Dunbar go live one time. And it was absolutely hilarious because it was supposed to be like an hour long, and I think he talked for like 3 hours.
Right, that's like me on my lives. Whoops.
Right. We've got to cut off. Anyway, he was sitting there, and you could hear a dog barking in the background. And all of a sudden, he's like, "Just a minute, please. This is a dog that's not usually here, and I need to go talk to him." Right. But he didn't mute himself, so you literally hear him go outside the room, and he's like, "Why are you barking?" And he's just having like this conversation with this dog, and the dog just stops and he's like, "That's better."
Right.
Okay, good.
Right.
And then he comes back, he's like, "Sorry about that."
Yeah.
I'm like, meanwhile, I'm like, "Come up."
Right. Yeah, no, I do that too sometimes. And that's funny because I'm like, people speak people, dogs speak dog. But like I do converse with dogs to calm them. Like it's the tone, right? Yeah. But in terms of like Ian Dunbar training, like I really enjoyed, I took a growl class with him and I wanted to do it in Moncton for so long because there's a huge, like, need for that type of thing. Yes. And if you're unfamiliar with what a growl class is, peeps, it's like, it's working on reactive dogs, and like you'd have to have a dog who is highly reactive, which the problem is that they have low frequency exposure to triggers, meaning people get upset that their dog's reactive, so they reduce their walking and they reduce, them going out. And I understand. I never judge clients.
That is the reason I get into dog training. I had that dog,
right?
And when she passed and I get a new one, I said I'm never having that again.
Right, exactly. Yep. And that's common. Like, hey, like the mechanic's car is broken, the plumber's pipes are leaky. The dog trainer's dog doesn't recall Winnie.
Don't ring my doorbell.
It's all good. Anyway, okay, but I'm going to know. Give me your address.
It'll be hilarious. You'll hear me going.
Anyway, right. So, see, we're all just people here, people. Like, no one's perfect. But anyway, so Ian Dunbar in the growl class, what I'd like to offer, which I haven't done yet, but I kind of use for the heel to walk type deal is, in my training, like I mentioned, kind of building that checking back. So I like to build a pattern, which I call like a feedback loop. So the dog, and I'm just marking the alertness. Yeah. So the dog becomes alert, like we mentioned just a minute ago, where the dog loses focus with the handler, fixates, or focuses just alertness toward the target. And then I say good. And then through repetition, the dog then associates trigger, good, me.
Yes.
trigger good me. So
See, I
then
don't know
the
the name of
dog.
it, but yeah, that.
Right, exactly. See exactly. So that's what I mean.
I
We're
use yes.
yeah, it doesn't matter. It's
Totally
a reward
works.
marker. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So
I got Callum back into the obedience ring this summer, and
good for
it
you.
was hilarious.
Congrats.
Because
That's awesome.
it was huge.
Good.
We might have danced. People laughed at us.
Yay.
But
I dance every
we
day.
got in there, and he'd start looking somewhere else with the nose would go down, and I'd go, yes!
And then
And
he's
he'd look
like,
at me and be like right back into
Right,
heel. And people
exactly.
kind of like, what?
yeah,
But
totally
it became,
awesome.
Yeah, instead of reinforcement, it became
A
a
redirection.
cue,
Yeah,
almost a cue.
I love it. I love it.
So if I can use any kind of cue to get that dog to look at me,
Totally. See, that's the thing. Like,
Yep.
I'm like a serial overpraiser, possibly.
yeah,
But I find that it creates an atmosphere of cooperation where I'm giving lots of feedback. Because if you have a neurotic dog or a dog who doesn't know, and you're just allowing them
Or
to
anxious.
default into their own, brain state, then they may get upset. And if I'm like, hey, blah 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 blah, good dog, then they're like looking at me like, yeah, she knows what's going on. I'm going to
Yeah.
follow this person. So
Yeah.
and then
Actually,
also we're
Julie,
creating positive framing
we had this talk.
situations. Yeah.
I had a Boston Terrier come. Julie,
The Boston Terror.
yeah, that's what she called it.
They all
Actually,
are.
they hate it.
Not all
Yeah,
of them.
and when I do my privates,
Mhm.
first time, I always kind of get the people to come in and just, you have a seat over there. I'm going to sit over here. I just want to watch how things go.
Right.
And let's
Exactly.
just chat so I
Yeah.
can see things.
the dog. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh my gosh, exactly what it was doing. And like nipping at her fingers and nipping at, Julie was like,
Play bow, bark, bark, bite.
right. So once I kind of had a better idea, I was like, okay, do you mind if I play for a second?
Huh.
We played for a couple minutes, and she's looking at me. She's like, how'd you do that? And then I gave the leash back, and I said, okay, you can go back to mom.
Exactly.
He went over, and he like got up on her knee, and he was like,
Perfect. Good job.
and she was just like, whatever you just did, yes.
Totally. That's awesome.
I give videos all the time. He's so sweet.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dogs, it's just like kids, and that's evidence that they understand. The little buggers, you're like, they're acting up with you, and then the second that they go into like a public situation or like to daycare or to be handed the leash to the dog trainer for the dog, like perfect. And then they're like, I show up there and they're like, of course they're not going to do it, and they don't do it. And I'm like, well, so that's why, again, now going into this, like I like to try my best to create a laboratory type experiment because I'm a scientist, I'm a behavior consultant, I'm a behavior scientist, I'm a psychology nerd. And I believe that in order to overcome the problems with training, you have to present the exact situation in which the problem occurs and try to control as many variables as possible, which is called a method of training called back chaining. So you control up close, and then you give freedoms as they are earned through, reinforcements and positive outcomes. So really important to have that type of stuff going on, if you asked me.
Yeah, because if we don't see it,
right,
and
exactly.
I'm not going to create it.
Right.
Probably the worst thing we could do is create the situation, because now we've just reinforced it.
Well, I create it so I can change it, so I control it. So like that's back chaining. So like that's what I'm talking about. So if you want to have the problem with reactivity, like you need to lay foundation work first without the presence of the trigger, so that you can, meaning dogs and et cetera, whatever they're reactive to, so that you can have a better ability to control them and to create alternate behavior patterns through repetition that they understand, so that they have something to rely on. Otherwise, they will continuously default into improper, impulsive behavior, and you yourself will not have the confidence to control them. So
I love analogies.
Yes.
This is how Dante had explained one
In
of them,
the
and
Inferno.
I love it.
Sorry,
What?
Dante's Inferno. I'm just making a book reference.
Okay,
Sorry.
thanks. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So one of the things Dante had put across was he likes analogies too. So he said, like, right now, your dog's going down the highway. So for you to come here, you knew where you're going. You just got on the highway. You went. Didn't really think about it a lot. I don't know about you, but I end up at work most Monday mornings going, I think I got here. Because I just drive.
Right.
So for right now, your
Subconscious.
dog sees another dog, boom, on the highway straight to bark. What he wants us to do is to go in and start cutting the path to make the detour. So we're going into the forest, cutting down the
I can
trees, like
understand this
literally
analogy.
going through this.
Yes.
And that's what it's kind of like for our dogs, because it's not easy. It's literally those neural paths in our brain that we have to continue to build and
brains.
And even then, how easy is it to pop on the highway and just go?
Right. It's So like that's
Yeah.
kind of like that's an excellent analogy, and that's kind
Love
of
it.
like essential to my belief system for my own training. Like I mentioned, I apply a lot of blocking and like communication.
Yeah, tell me blocking. Sorry. I
Oh,
interrupted. But yeah, blocking.
Totally. So
said it
blocking.
twice now.
Okay. So blocking, like heel position, is a position where you have your dog right beside you, as you
Yeah.
know. And it's, in my opinion, a good position. It's what people view as obedience.
Right.
They see a dog in a heel position, they're like, that's a dog, that's obedience.
Yeah.
Those are perfect dogs that are non-reactive generally. How many dogs like that do you know in this world? I don't know that many, and I train them every day. So
Mine aren't.
right. So I just bring awareness to that. Blocking meaning having your dog kind of in a heel position, rotating your right hip forward so that your left foot would be kind of like on a 90-degree or 45-degree angle with your dog's paw.
Yeah.
Therefore, what you're communicating there in that position, and you're kind of facing your dog, your hips are facing toward the dog. So what you're doing in that position is that you're communicating sternly. A blocking meaning this is anything behind your back that's in front of the dog is yours.
Right.
You own it. You're in an offensive threat posture, meaning eye contact, looking at the dog.
Yeah.
If the dog lunges, you are able to simply pop the leash like this and step your foot forward to block.
Right.
So that you have full control. You can handle like a 160-pound dog like that, no problem.
Rather
if you
than
know,
this.
if you know how to predict behavior based on indicators. So blocking is very important to me. I use it all the time. And I think that it's very important. So it's the same communication that they themselves would use when they are blocking, for example, a food item like a dish, or they would stand in front of it. Now, once you know about blocking, you go and you look at every dog that's operating in their environment, and you'll notice they're blocking everything. It tells you how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And it's an expression of dominance using spatial occupation around resources and territory. So if your dog tries to lunge or take territory, moving towards the trigger that it wants, then you yourself go, this is theft of my territory. So I'm the alpha here. I don't need to be rough. I simply go, okay, you're encroaching on the space that I've just told you I own. Therefore, I'm moving you physically out of the space again by front face blocking you.
Right.
Walking hips towards you, pushing you out of the space. Your dog will go like, should I get past you? And then he looks up, he's like, what? And then you're like, good, bam, treat. Yeah. And then your dog focuses. So what I was talking about here is using blocking as well as like relative to your analogy about the highway and breaking, onto little paths and stuff like that. And like
go around it.
Right. So I apply like blocking and redirection and handling to break reactivity, because I know that a lot of common issues are occurring because dogs are expected that they can be placed in possibly a sit-stay on the side of a trail while the trigger passes. But as we both know, as well as, most people who own dogs know, as soon as the target enters that threshold, which we talked about, that they can no longer tolerate it, they will lunge. Therefore, you'll achieve loss of control. So I like to incorporate the use of blocking and settling, which is another maneuver that I use, which is pushing on the shoulders, which is also associated with dominance, because that's if you push on the shoulder blades of a dog, that's where mothers like neck and shoulders will pick up their puppies and literally throw them from the den if they're not behaving, or if they're runts or whatever. If there's something wrong with them, they'll remove them. That's where the mounting process begins. Dogs will come up and place a paw on the shoulder, and then the bottom dog freezes and goes, and they can decide to jump up and joust, or they can submit and then the other dog mounts, or they will, an alpha or another dog can literally stand on the back of another dog so that they have no use of their forward limbs to get up. If they roll them on the side, then this is what I've seen, right? So they roll them on their side and place their mouth on the neck and shoulder region, and this is where we're taught to hold the dog on its side. So if you're pinching shoulders and pushing pressure there, your dog can, again, be physically dominated. So like that's what I'm talking about, species-specific communication. That's dogs talking to each other. So that's what I do. So I use the blocking, which is a strong expression of dominance, which is what dogs need. They need a dominant leader. But it's non-confrontational because I'm not yelling at them and I'm not rough handling them. I'm simply calm, cool, collected. And I'm like, this is my space.
And I think that needs to be kind of told to, like, I don't know if I'd necessarily tell somebody to just go ahead and start playing with some of that stuff
It
without
can-
knowing what they're doing.
I've been
It can
attacked and
redirect,
bitten. I've been
yes.
attacked and redirect bitten many times. You have to be careful. I will not do that with some dogs that I
Yeah.
meet. I don't handle them.
Yeah.
I say your dog will possibly react to me. And when I'm handling dogs, I don't always handle them because I say my job here
Yep.
is to get your dog to change and to get you to feel comfortable. Now, what
Yep.
would we achieve if I take your leash, make your dog shut down
Yep.
and become reactive? Is that training? No, that's
No.
not.
You're
because
just stressing the dog out.
your dog's not listening. Your dog's learning
No.
nothing, and neither are you because you're upset because you're like all embarrassed as the person who owns the dog. So I'm
Yeah.
like, nope. You know what? I can the trait, or I guess the measure of success for a good trainer, in my opinion, is one that can convey meaning, communicate how to do something without even touching the dog, and still get a rock solid result.
Exactly.
And that's the gift right there, man, of
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
yeah. Anyway, so I was talking, and here I go,
I like
blah blah.
this.
Yeah.
That's okay.
but
I'm just like,
I was
fascinating.
gonna say, and I talk about a lot of different things. So about my training style, and a lot of people, using these types of things. Oh, there we go. Hi, that's my logo. One of
Switching
them.
it up a bit.
Thank you, Ellen White. You're awesome. Anyways, but yeah. So in my opinion, I think that. Talking about that highway where your dog's like impulsively reacting, where they're like, I'm going to get that thing.
Yeah.
It's really important, in my opinion, to use blocking
Yeah.
and redirection through movement
Yeah.
to overcome the triggers. So you can't be expected to sit still when it's like I always say, it's like a kid going to a candy store or going to wherever, right? So
Yeah.
this is not going to be constructive to a point. And
No, you're almost setting up for failure.
yeah, and then you think about brain activity. For myself, I think about how a brain operates, and I think if a dog or a person is sitting still and they're focusing on something, the only thing that they're looking at is that problem.
Yeah.
Therefore, it has got 100% brain power. So if I then begin to get up and pick things up, put them away, or move through a problem, my hands and body are physically maneuvering. Therefore, a reduction in my focus has been achieved.
Yeah.
I have divided my brain into more pieces of a pie, where part of it is using the limbs, which does require brain, not a lot because it's all subconscious and autonomic. But then we have the eyes, which are processing data and they're moving around. Therefore, your brain is functioning. So it's all happening in real time. It takes processing power to do that. So then you're using scent and redirection to the nose. You're using visual triggers that you have present. You can, these are all excellent methods, which are scientific, to break that focus, that alertness off of the trigger and handle them through the problem.
Right.
Movement and sensory inputs by the handler.
Yeah.
At specific times based on behavior cues and thresholds that have been determined.
At the level of the dog and the situation.
Exactly,
Yes.
are the key to success, if you ask me.
Let's do a lead in here because I love this.
Ooh.
Look at us being technical. We're all ready here.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to bring something up really quickly and show it to you here because I'm all ready for this.
Ooh, good job. You're so good at computers. By the way, everybody here who's listening, good job. Honestly, this is all supposed to be done in person, and you literally, like I said earlier, launched this online in days. I would literally curl up in a ball and cry, which I probably did make a negative decision.
I think my husband's at that point right now. He's seriously Mel, what were you thinking? Look at this. There we go.
Yay.
It's not perfect,
Here,
but it's
I'm
good.
going this way. There. Now we're both together.
I know it's mirror. I get all screwed up on it.
Oh,
I keep trying to do my hair in weird ways.
That's why I
and everything
love,
else.
yeah. That's my lovely hair and my wing.
If you could see how many there's demo 1, demo 2, demo 3, demo 4, all the same thing. But at one point I tried to brush my hair over and I just made it all stand up because I went the wrong way. So this is something that Katie and I have kind of started to chat about before, but we've never been able to sit down and talk about it.
No.
So fascinating.
Yay.
This is the hierarchy of dog needs.
Yes.
I'm going to bring up, we know what we look like. So I'm going to bring it up so we can actually see it a bit better and just kind of discuss what we're seeing.
Okay, wicked. I like it.
Yeah.
I like the cut of your jib.
Nice.
Sailing terms. I'm an old pirate from way back. Yeah.
So this is where
Yeah.
my fascination comes in.
Mhm.
I like training. I like challenging myself, all of that. But when it's behavior modifications, that I get
Ooh.
very nerdy.
Me too.
Yes, like you said, that moment when you see that
God,
little
I'm like,
flicker,
hide
and it's
that.
like,
Sorry.
So
Shy.
what we were talking about throughout all of that is a lot of this stuff that's right up here.
Mhm.
If we're not looking after this stuff, we're still not actually changing stuff. Again, we're
No.
going back, we're band-aiding it.
Yes.
So as we're going through and looking at a dog and saying, okay, there's an issue here, we've got to deal with this.
Oh my gosh.
Rather than jumping straight to a social need, my dog needs to go to the dog park. Well, no, let's take a step back. We want to look at those biological needs. We'll just kind of explain it a bit as we're going.
Totally.
So people think I'm crazy, but like dogs coming in, losing its mind at me, and I'm sitting back in my garage having my initial assessment going, so how often does your dog eat?
Mm-hmm.
But this is the stuff I'm looking at. I want to know eating, exercising.
Totally.
I break it down into physical stimulation and mental stimulation.
Absolutely. Oh,
totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say mental stimulation, people look at me like I'm crazy.
Oh my God. So many problems. Like, yeah.
Oh, it's been a lifesaver with Callum.
Right.
To focus on that.
That's the thing. And like, not to like jump in and take over there, but I think this is a good talking point too. Like I work with like some sporting dogs and some like herding dogs, especially. Like they have people who get the like a herding type breed of dog, like Callum's an Aussie, right? So he's got an intense amount of like physical energy, and people who because you're a dog trainer, that he needs equally, or if not more, mental stimulation to focus him. Because it's like I tell people analogies to him, like I go to the gym and I work out and I'm like amped, psyched, like after, because that's me, right? So it's personality based. Like some dogs, because they are more energetic dogs, people focus primarily on like physical energy requirements and mental stimulation. They just throw the ball, and then you're like, okay, now your dog has a complete obsession.
Don't do it.
Absolutely don't, because you're creating a psychotic dog. No, sorry, that's not a nice way of putting it, but you're creating a dog who has an intense fixation and becomes obsessed. This is why border collies are obsessed with frisbees, obsessed with ball, obsessed like labs. They can't function with that item around because they're not getting their needs mentally satiated.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, at all.
I actually had somebody not long ago say, how do you have an Aussie and not like hike 10 miles a day? Right. There's some days I don't even I don't have time. I don't walk my Aussie.
That's okay.
But do you know what he does do? He does food puzzles. He
Totally.
does obedience. I might hide food all through the house or all through the yard.
Absolutely.
And he's exhausted. Oh my God. Dude, all of these challenges and stuff the other day.
Oh, yeah?
I actually am going to post a picture later, and there's one. He was holding a ball in his mouth in my living room like this. Fully asleep, ball in mouth, head up.
Nice.
But he was exhausted.
Right, exactly.
I could have ran him for 3 days and not hit that.
I know, and that's where I'm getting at. Like a lot of dogs, like people when I leave after even just an hour, all I've done is like a few reps of this, a few reps of that, a few reps of that, and then they take pictures and send me, and their dog's like drooling, and then they're like, oh, and I'm like, a tired dog is a happy dog. Yeah. This is satiation of needs. It's information being given to your dog and guidance so that your dog has something. And this is the prevention side where dogs are learning, and kids too, learning negative behaviors because they're not being challenged. They're not being given anything. So so they're, and I wouldn't say anything, but they're not given what they need, So our intentions are always good. We think we're doing a good job, but there's something that we're missing, right? So dogs will learn negative behavior patterns because we don't know what we're doing with them. We're trying to like grab something from them. We're chasing them around and they're like, yeah, this is hilarious. Humans can't catch me. Do
you know how often I used to do that around my neighborhood?
Yeah.
Callum
catch all the dogs. Me too.
No, just Callum. He was Facebook notorious for. I even had to go pick him up at the animal hospital one day.
Oops.
Because he went for a walk by himself, and 2 nice ladies drove him up there.
Aw, nice ladies. Thanks, ladies. Yay.
So that's kind of the biological side of it. To go along with, just to kind of throw it out there, like shelter, making sure that they're actually safe, well looked after, all of that.
Absolutely.
But then we start looking at emotional needs too. So mental, physical.
So important. So
the anxiety part, right? Because if they don't have that mental part, that anxiety just festers.
Right. Yeah. And that comes, the emotional need, in my opinion, mostly comes from the lack of leadership.
Yeah.
So like, we got to remember here that dogs, yeah, they've been domesticated to hang out with us. Yes, of course. But it's not natural for them to have items
No.
like couches, homes, doorbells, people coming and going. This is
Yeah.
not a natural setting for a dog by any means. So of
No.
course they develop learned and associative patterns, which are generally reactive because we're not guiding them and telling them how to deal with the problems. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we need to be firm, strong leaders using calm and compassionate handling through
Mhm.
blocking and nonverbal communication, primarily positive framing, these types of things in order, and regular exercise.
Yeah.
These are what and emulating that the structural existence of dogs. They exist in an alpha positioned leader, and that is what the problem is. Dogs are walking in front and they're leading you through impulsive behavior in an environment that they're unsure how to deal with.
Yeah.
So we need to remove that, and we need to give them that benevolent leadership, not
Yeah.
malevolent. So loving leadership,
Right.
that is love.
And
Discipline is love, so is leadership.
part of what we're talking about too, and I really stress this in my classes. When I do I'm actually not doing obedience classes right now. I only do a communications course,
Oh, cool.
and the obedience kind of comes with it.
Of course it does.
It's the bonus, right?
Totally.
But it's
Yes.
a communications course
Yes.
first and foremost.
Uh-huh.
But I refuse to teach corrections.
Hmm.
I tell them about them on the last class.
Okay.
We only do understanding at first
Okay.
because
Cool.
you can't correct. If I told Easton to go to school and do calculus and
You're
he
right.
came home and said he couldn't do it, I can't correct him.
No, of course, because he doesn't learn. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So we start with
Basic.
this foundation. We build
Good.
a block. We
That's
build
amazing.
a block. But that's a really part of it, a big part of it because,
Mm-hmm.
and I do this all the time. You know better, right?
Mm.
Look at my dog. Oh, come on, Callum. You know better than that.
Right. Turning your back.
Does he really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That understanding. So not
Totally.
just
Can and
communication,
cannot. Totally.
understanding of the
Of
communication.
course, it's teamwork.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I believe it's teamwork, and that we have we have a responsibility to be part of the team. We're the leader of the team. Like,
Look at you going right into the next part of attachment and bonding.
Ooh,
And-
oh.
amazing. You're
Right.
good at this.
So are you. So basically, it's a team. It's a team. Like, I control everything in terms of training, because in very small, minute increments, and that's the back chaining kind of like look at it. So you like or just like really
Yeah.
building blocks, because I want my teammate to be successful.
Right.
I myself as a human have the ability to control things to make sure that I achieve a good success rate.
Yeah.
So if I can do that, I'm going to do it, because
Exactly.
guess what? The hard work pays off for me, because eventually, and I believe this too for kids, you put the hard work in when they're young, you don't have to train them anymore when they're older, because they're already trained.
Right, Faith?
Right?
That's
Exactly.
what I mean.
So like, my kids are like, they're free ranging, and like not against the law of free ranging, but they're
Right.
very independent and they're smart. And because I have put my time into making sure that they are, so
Yeah.
same with my dogs. Yes, they're going to have some times that my dog doesn't come back directly as soon as I say, but
Right.
she understands, and she doesn't go where she's not supposed to. And
Right.
I believe, that it's a trust thing. I trust my dogs.
100%.
I trust my kids. My kids trust me. My dogs trust me.
Yeah.
And this is what it's about,
Right.
is creating that atmosphere of trust and love, so that you guys are a team and you work together and you do good things.
If not, you're just micromanaging. I use that term a
Ugh.
lot. We're just micromanaging, band-aiding.
Right. I don't want to have to work forever.
No.
I like to play.
I thought I would never get Callum off leash, and holy hell, we've gotten that.
Good
and
job.
the day we did
Yeah.
it, I ran in the house and cried because I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, did you just?"
Good
Well,
job.
I actually yelled at my
Emotion.
husband. I'm like, "Did you say that?" So yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
so all of that kind of before I'm looking at actual training and corrections or any of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
biological, emotional, social,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I
this-
expect the same for me, right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And this is like modeling too. And it's that social angle that like a lot of, here I go again, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh my God. Like the social angle is understanding the ritualization of certain things in a dog's life. Like they are so pivotal to their existence, like certain things like feeding and walking. Like these are very social activities. And if we don't understand and give them I guess, how sacred they are, if we don't respect that, then they lose their significance, and therefore a lot of the personality, and I guess what I'm trying to say here is the species itself is being sacrificed because, or desecrated, if you will, like part of it's being lost because that's what they live and breathe by is a code. As we all should have our own code, but dogs specifically, food and migration.
Yeah.
Very important. So, a lot of problems are happening because these two rituals are not being respected. You got to feed your dog with leadership exercises, sit, wait, focus, release when I say.
And
same with walking, no dragging.
Right. Knowing the purpose behind them. A lot of I'm big on purebred dogs. I mean, I train everything, obviously. I love dogs.
Right.
But I've really kind of taken that purebred aspect because, they've all been done for a purpose. Again, there's science behind that as well. Because if you look, if you've got and I'm not saying CKC registered.
It's all good. I've only ever had mudds,
but
dirty mudds.
Callum's my first purebred ever.
Yeah.
But if you look at the science behind it, the time and I have friends with CKC and they start talking about genetics.
Yes,
and
I like genetics.
The testing and all of this, and I'm just
Gregor Mendel. Sorry.
They all literally laugh at me because they'll start talking and I do this. Kind of what I was doing to you a while ago.
Right,
really? But I just I'm just fascinated by it because I'm you can tell before you impregnate a bitch that you're going to have dogs with
I know that.
I know. I still have a time with it though. But you can tell me what color all the puppies are going to be before the dogs even knit.
Yes.
And they're
of course.
And I'm going, oh,
right. Cool. This is gene splicing.
Right.
Dominant and recessive traits. Do you know anything about Gregor Mendel and his corn?
No, but you're going to get me into this, aren't you? Sorry. But going back to the purpose behind it too, because it's not just the color of the dog. Callum comes from a very strong drive.
Yes.
Working
lines.
I asked for that, and his breeder laughs at me constantly. I asked for strong drive, strong.
And you got it, girl. You got what you wanted.
I got the most insane thing in the face of the earth, and like I said, Phyllis is like, "Good job, he's yours." But I knew that going into it, and so that's the thing. I purposely purchased him for that reason.
Right.
Now, Keegan, I couldn't tell you anything. He is the muddiest mutt.
He's cute. I remember I met him. Yeah, I met him.
But he is. I couldn't tell you what he is. He's a Kijiji German Shepherd is what he calls.
Oh, really? Yeah. He looks like a bit of a Roddy mix too, but kind of border collie. He's got fluffy fur.
I would love to do
little
DNA.
Boots. I call little boots dogs who have fluffy paws and nice little boots.
Apparently, it was a purebred German Shepherd. I paid $150 for.
Oh my!
Way back when.
Yeah.
But knowing that stuff I know about Callum helps me with the training.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get those herding aspects.
Oh, yes.
It kind of goes into this whole thing. Exactly. Yes. He's got that. It's innate.
Yes, it's definitely.
I can't just be you're not going to bark anymore.
No, exactly. No, and understanding what we're getting ourselves into is really important too, I think. Knowing your breeds and breed awareness and things like that. And that's a problem with mixed dogs because you don't know their heritage per se. So you're kind of guessing. But, it's, I think, really important to be mindful of all of that stuff, like you mentioned, and know what you're getting yourself involved in. Because, unfortunately, there's a lot of, I guess, lack of research that happens with people, or the true definition, the true word would be ignorance, because it means to not understand.
Right.
But that word, unfortunately, has a bad connotation to it.
It does.
I'm ignorant. I don't know everything. So I go trying to remove that stigma right there. Ignorance.
One of my mottos has always been ignorance is bliss, because if it's going to cause me stress, I'm good. You just go over there.
Hey.
But yeah, understand that people that get border collies and want a beautiful, obedient dog who sleeps with them on the couch most of the day.
Oh boy.
It can't. It literally physically can't.
Not usually.
So yeah, so this is kind of some of this.
Oh, that's okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to share that one more time just to kind of hit those top two topics.
Sure.
Give me a second. And there we go.
There we go.
So this is where it comes back to the force feed training.
Yes, which is basically like Lima.
Exactly. And I want to touch on that, which is why I want to kind of move us along.
That was our initial goal, and we've been an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
That's okay.
So yeah, these are kind of different ways that we can do force feed training. I can't say that this morning. Force-free
Sounds
training.
like force feed.
I don't know. I thought that's what I said the first time too.
It's all good.
So yeah, these are kind of different
Yes.
ways that we can work or manage the dog without actually
Right.
the physical part of it. A lot of times, in a lot of the old school training, which I was taught
positive
with,
punishment training methods.
Right.
Yes.
and I was fully taught
That's
with a
okay.
lot of different ways of that.
Right.
And
And that's most people are.
right, because it's been popular for a long time.
Well, yeah.
But when you start bringing this stuff into it, it start making sense.
It all
For
makes
me,
so much
anyway.
sense. Exactly. To me as well.
Right.
Right.
And
It's building.
and I
Building
guess that's
things.
where let's just leave it on that. And take notice of this cute little
Yes.
shock prong choke, because we're going to come back to that.
Right.
But let's take a second and hit over to Lima, because I brought this up with a couple of people and they're not 100% sure what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I want to kind of get into it with you, because when I found out you knew, I was like, conversation to have.
Sure.
So let's do it this way. This might be easier. Let me
Sure.
play.
Ooh. Sure. You can
There,
computer all
check-
you like.
there,
Please
check
do
this
so.
out.
Don't let me touch it. It will self-destruct.
Okay, there we go.
Yay.
So this is the Lima approach.
Yeah.
This has been fascinating to me, and not gonna lie, I've got into several Facebook wars about this
Oh yeah.
in terms of interpretation.
Mm.
So the one thing that I liked about this is it was one of the first things I found online that actually included positive punishment
Mm.
without just basically pretending it doesn't exist,
Right.
because it does.
It does.
So
You have to add a consequence as a punishment.
Right.
Sometimes.
And it
Yes.
doesn't-
It depends on your intensity. Yes.
right. And it doesn't have to be abuse.
No, absolutely
but
not.
Some people, you
No.
say positive punishment and you instantly think abuse.
Hmm.
It's not that.
Positive means add. Punishment means consequence.
Right. So when we're looking at this, it goes back to that hierarchy
Yes.
where, let's see if I can make this bigger because I'm blind.
Oh, good.
So again, what we just talked about, wellness, looking at, I still can't say this word, antecedent arrangement.
Antecedent.
There you go. Thank you.
Yes.
All that means, that's a fancy word for what just happened. What
Right.
happened before?
Mhm.
What happened in that 5 seconds before that happened? Rather than just saying, oh crap, that happened. Why?
Yes.
Your dog
Antecedent.
doesn't just
Yes.
bite.
Right.
There's something.
Anti is to be prior to, and
Right.
ascendant, like the things descending,
See,
or
this is where I like you.
it's root words, suffixes.
I know.
Nerd alert. Arrangements, meaning what happened. Yes. What is the setup here?
Exactly.
What are the triggers? Antecedents. Yes.
Exactly. And I like, it's going right along with our highway thing too here.
Ooh.
So, don't think I planned this. So yeah, so again, dog comes in, this obviously happened. Okay, well, tell me about medical life, stuff like that. Then tell me about the situation. Let's use some positive reinforcement. Let's see if that works. Can I get the dog to do it by simply saying, hey, I got this, come along?
Mm-hmm. And positive reinforcement has more than one vein to it, right? There's
Yes.
operant conditioning, classical conditioning. It's conditioning.
Right.
It's conditioning using rewards
Yes.
rather than focusing on consequences.
Yes.
So it would be like your reward marker, good dog, and using a treat or
Right.
using a something. So yeah, exactly. Positive
Rather than
reinforcement.
constantly, no.
Exactly. Yep.
And then we go into kind of the differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. Now
Absolutely.
this,
Redirect.
yeah. And I started getting into a little bit of this. What is it? Premax principle. Am I
Ooh.
impressing you?
Yeah. Tell me
Still
more.
working on understanding it, so don't ask for an explanation yet.
That's okay. We
But-
can talk. Tell
Right.
me more. I like to learn too. I love
But
it. in fact.
basically, it's
Love it.
something is more likely to happen if what happens before it is positive. Right. So
It's like framing. Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So my dog hates to stay,
Mm.
but if it knows every time it's going to sit, it's going to get a treat.
Mhm.
Well, if I can give a treat for that sit, then work up to my stay, suddenly
Absolutely.
the stay is a lot easier because
Well,
the sit
yes.
is working, right? And then you can start kind of intertwining them back and forth.
Okay.
And that's where I get lost.
Interesting.
But yeah,
That
so
makes sense.
basically-
that's-
I don't want to go to the gym, but if I
do.
go to the,
many couple times a day.
oh my God. Yeah, but if I know I'm going to go to the gym and
Yeah.
then treat myself to a Nutella latte like I just had,
Uh-huh.
well, I'm going to go to the gym so I can get the latte.
right. So yeah.
Right. So I'm
understand.
going to
Yes, cost benefit.
I'm going to teach it by sit, stay, and then eventually I'm going to stay.
Right. Just
because I'm going to get the treat.
These are called behavior chains.
Yes.
Behavior chaining.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much.
So, yeah, playing with all of that stuff.
Toads.
Now,
toads and goats.
The next thing we were going to get into is kind of, this is where we talked earlier about the extinction, the negative reinforcement, negative punishment.
Yes.
So like you just said, negative does not mean abuse.
No.
Positive doesn't mean abuse. Negative means I took it away.
Absolutely, it does. That's right.
So,
and that doesn't work, because if you just take something away, then you don't give any tools on how to deal with it.
Exactly.
If you ask me.
Oh my God, jumping, right?
We talked about that.
Yes.
Just going to turn my back and let you jump all over me.
Right. And then
or just like
dog
what?
gets down and we just walk away, and dog's like, "What? Okay."
It means nothing. Exactly. In
Right.
my opinion.
Me
Other
too.
people might think differently, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I don't believe in that. I believe in balanced training,
Exactly.
where we have corrections, and hey, guess what? I need corrections too. People got to tell me what I'm doing wrong. I need somebody to tell me that stuff. Otherwise, I'm never going to learn.
I got
I can teach myself,
check-ins
but
last night in
hey.
terms of, you're going to sleep tonight, right? You're not staying up all night working on this. 2 check-ins. So yes, I need corrections
like,
and reminders too.
I think I went to. I had a lot of rest yesterday. I needed it. Yeah, so that's good. And
I stayed up till 4:30 Friday night getting ready for yesterday.
you cray.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like 11 o'clock done. That's late.
Right. So, and then we're going to get into positive punishment, but just to kind of finish the explanation of it.
Yes.
In Lima,
Please do.
you're always starting at the beginning because this is your least intrusive, minimally adversive. I can't say that's slow or strong enough.
Yeah.
Did I say it wrong again?
No.
Okay,
no.
good.
No, it's all good. But like, I think if I can like kind of talk about this a little bit
Yes,
too.
please.
I feel
I need
that,
a
and we
cookie.
already have without even really saying it directly, but linking the two concepts together. Like, for example, this is behavior modification. So behavior modification is high stress to triggers. So like I used Lima. I used it yesterday twice for 2 appointments. I think it was about nail clipping.
Yeah.
So and compassionate, like, so I use this approach too, in terms of understand. It's about cooperation and choices too with the dog, a lot of it. So, and it's not being forceful on the dog, and it's again building and respecting cues and indicators so that we're not pushing the dog beyond threshold. Building a relationship of trust so that you can manage the situation. So, minimally invasive, least invasive, minimally aversive training. Cheers.
Oh, wow.
Bam. None left.
Exactly.
But anyway, so yeah, like it's just about working on through like positive training and redirection of behaviors and things like that, like getting that dog to perform something in a respectful manner that does not hurt them or create more stress.
Right.
So like a lot of the problems with behavior modification are happening because people don't know how to do it. So like nail clipping, they hold the dog down.
Yeah.
They're petting the dog. Therefore, that's a negative experience. It's also, going to create repeat trauma, which will be triggered, which will create a higher, more emotional response through brain chemicals. The moment that you see that first, trigger that somebody's opening the drawer when the nail clippers happen.
Yes.
To be.
Dog runs and hides.
Yeah, exactly. Because they are associating, like you're mentioning, behavior chaining, but it's negative behavior chaining by them, emotional.
Exactly.
Right. So we need to take control and create new positive behavior chains, and we need to create new positive experiences based on understanding and working together through cooperation and compassionate handling. And positive reinforcement, but there can be a correction. For example, the dog tries to run. I'm going to leash pop, not pop, but apply a little pressure so it can't run.
Right.
Because guess what? You can't run from your fears and expect that you're going to
control it.
No, you can't run from your fears and expect that they're going to get fixed. You got to deal with them head on.
Right.
You got to train them.
Exactly.
And then they're gone.
And that's
For people too. Living evidence.
Yes. Lots of therapy into that one. But that kind of leads into, and this is where a lot of my arguments start, because the Lima approach is a positive thing. It is a force-free, positive training, all of that. And the term balanced trainer, as you know, sometimes get a little bit in that community. I cannot get rid of my shock collar, my prong collar, I've got every collar, muzzle.
I think any good trainer should have these things on hand.
There are dogs that have reached that point.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, I think that, and this is something that I used to be very uncomfortable with. So this, I'm feeling like I can speak about it a little more comfortably now. And it's an awareness, it's an education. So this would be, and people may judge us, people may judge me, and I'm willing to accept what people will say of me, and I will have perfect confidence in what I say about this, right? So I myself, previous to learning more about these tools and working with more harder dogs, there's a reason why they're categorized as harder dogs.
Yes.
That is actually a classification of behavior type temperaments. People, if you're unaware, there's hard and soft dogs. Hard dogs have a higher prey drive. They have higher alertness. They have higher this. They have higher that. They're tougher. They have more thick skin, so to speak. Exactly. So you work with your dog to create as many positive training experiences and use those as a last resort. I've seen great success if they're used responsibly. I used to hate them. I used to be like, no, but now I'm like, you know what? If I'm not open to learning about these things and trying them myself, but not relying on them as the only means of control and using them irresponsibly, and that improves the quality of life of the animal and myself and my confidence, which creates an air of less anxiety, more confidence in the animal, then why wouldn't I use those things?
See, now that's why I like this, because I came from the other angle.
Oh,
I was taught hard.
Yeah,
and bringing in the positive aspect.
Okay, so
we're kind of meeting in the middle.
Right, exactly. So
yeah, but I'm the same way. And I don't want to say I was taught hard in terms of like putting on a shock collar and cranking. I've never lit up a dog.
No.
But
that's not why we do our jobs.
Exactly.
We're not here to do that. I'm
exactly.
not.
But I was taught a lot with mostly with like the slip collar and the pop and really just getting that control, being that dominant kind of idea.
Yeah.
And I was actually quite surprised when I went and worked with Duke Ferguson over in PEI, because he wanted to put a prong on Keegan, and I was like, oh, he's gonna pee.
Right.
He's soft.
Right.
And he put it on, and he showed me how to actually
use it,
condition
it's
it.
Just a deep.
I literally control my dogs. Like
Absolutely.
That. And same thing with the shock collar.
That's the thing, right?
It's
conditioning and our perceptions.
Yes.
Totally.
So like I was telling you before we started,
yes.
My Callum, who is pure insanity, actually has a working level of 4 out of 100.
Right.
He's insane. Now, I have had to go quite high. I remember doing this once. We were back in the woods and he got a smell of something. And he took off flying. And so the way I learned and the way I've taught it is basically increase, because that's what I'm doing. I'm going to meet their threshold.
Yes.
As soon as I hit that threshold with them, you're going to see it with the dog. And the second I see that, I'm going to stop.
Absolutely.
Dog stops, looks at me. At that point, I'm reinforcing. Absolutely. Get back here.
That's right.
I'm done with the collar.
That's right. Exactly.
He came back to me so fast that day.
Good.
And he's never hit it before, because now he starts to run and he's like,
oops.
I remember this. If I go back, it's a lot more fun.
Exactly. So that's the thing. Like I used it with recently with a dog, Jolene, who we could not determine her root motivation, her root emotion with her fixation. She had never been socialized to any other dogs. I allowed her to play with my Winnie. I knew that she was fine, and she's a big, strong dog. Anyway, so Jolene and I talked to them, and we were, we made a point, and we talked about it. It was a little bit uncomfortable at first because they were concerned that it was going to hurt their animal, of course. And it's not my primary method of training. We tried literally training that dog for every other possible behavior. And the dog performed that every single behavior, perfectly well trained, could listen to anything. But the moment you produce a trigger, she just had never seen them before. Yep. So she was like, what's that? Right. So just staring, and she just couldn't break her focus. So we used it as a tool, which you mentioned, it has to equal or surpass in value the desire.
Right. And
that your dog has.
What punishment means.
Right.
I punish my kids all the time. I don't beat them.
No, exactly. I'm not laughing. Well, I was, but that was not comfortable. jokes. Anyway, no. So,
Right.
but I get what you're saying. So, like, but in terms of like breaking distraction for positive methods of distraction training or correction-based training,
Yep.
if you're bringing, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. If you're bringing kibble to break just focus on something that's super high value, it's not going to work. So you have to likewise, we up the ante, we were using raw bones. We were using everything to try to break focus. Nothing worked. So we needed to find something as a means to break fixation so that we could retrain a redirection, not so that we could focus on no, so that we could break fixation, so that we could train the dog.
Right.
So we used that, and guess what? Now she's off leash playing with tons of dogs, having the best life, and just so great.
Right.
Exactly. So it improves quality of life.
That moment
Responsible
of
use.
learning,
Right.
And that's what it's supposed to be. That moment of learning, that moment of realization.
Yes.
That's it. Right. There's no more to it at that point, because
Mhm.
at that point, if you just kept frying your dog, that is
Well, they don't even understand.
No.
Really.
And if that's happening, that's not what we're talking about. Like I said, punishment is literally like, dude, you did that, you've got consequences. My teenager learns that all the time.
Yes. We all
By
learn through
applying something.
consequences.
If you ground your cage, guess what? You just positive punish them.
Yeah, because you
added the grounding
exactly
to teach them a consequence.
Absolutely, totally. I
Right.
agree 100%. Yes,
And that's why I like Lima, because some dogs need that level.
right. Exactly.
And then you just start, as soon as you've got that,
yes.
now we reinforce, we train, now we can
Right. And hey,
modify.
just not to, and another interesting point about collars, e-collars and such, which has helped to break a stigma, has been, I've worked with some deaf animals.
Oh my gosh, yes.
How do you train a deaf dog to recall? Obviously, they're never off leash in their life, or you can teach them with an e-collar to communicate and provide feedback focus when they feel the vibe. So these are not bad tools.
No.
They're good tools if they're used the right way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting little factoid.
Mm-hmm.
Callum's working with his shock part. I hate the word shock, is why I'm saying it that. But the stimulus.
Static.
I use
Static.
stimulus.
Okay.
Yeah, I use
That's good.
stimulus.
That's good.
So that stimulus that he works at
Yes.
is less than the same collar on vibrate.
Right.
If I hit vibrate on my thing inadvertently,
Yes.
it's a punishment, and I feel atrocious. And like, because he's like, bah, what the hell, Mom?
Right.
So I usually
Because
just
they're
don't even go near it.
communication tools. I think that everyone
Right.
needs to view them as communication tools, and I guess people have to have a willingness to be open to learn
Yes.
about things. And if people are rigid in their understanding or their concepts of things, then they're going to miss out. Not saying that, and again, not my primary method of training,
No,
but they do have their place, of course.
they do.
Absolutely.
They do. And I guess
Everybody
that's
learns
why,
different, and we need to respect each individual as well,
Yeah.
dog or human alike, their learning
Yeah.
process and the way that they themselves retain.
And that's why I'm not quite ready to, like the thing with the cross through it that we
Right,
were talking about.
exactly.
I'm not
So,
quite ready to cross that line because
That's
I've
okay.
met those dogs.
right, me too. As a professional trainer, anybody who is a trainer
you
has
haven't.
met them, and right.
If you
will
haven't, just wait.
Exactly. So, again, I think that what we also talked about was that people who are going to use these tools, 110% have to have education by a professional first.
Yes.
And that they should be used in conjunction with a lot of previously laid foundation work.
Yes, don't throw one on your dog and expect
No.
miracles.
No, you won't know. No.
It'll make it
And-
worse, and then you're gonna call us, and we're gonna have to go back
And
And-
fix more problems.
twice as many sessions, twice as much cost.
Hey, you can do it.
Call
No, I'm
us
just joking.
first.
Just joking. I'd rather not have money than have happy dogs.
Yes,
Absolutely. Anyway,
yes. Hence, way too much free training that I do sometimes.
I love free training, man. I
know.
perceive it as payment.
Well,
for
yeah, because you
myself.
see it.
I'm giving people
Yes.
a gift that they can then translate into happiness in their life, which
Yep.
will then pay me because I love helping people. I love
Exactly.
it, so, and it helps me. So it makes me feel good.
Seeing
almost
that
like-
first time that a dog looks at something
Right.
and looks back at the owner.
It's like,
I don't know about you, but I do happy dances.
me too. I'm like stoked. I love it. I like to bring awareness to them. Like, your dog is checking you. Did you notice it? Like, did you
Exactly.
see that beautiful thing? I'm like, oh my God, look at that dog looking at you. Look at that dog.
Video is the best thing ever. Where I'm like looking and I'm all excited. And the owner's like, "Oh, I know, but it didn't do anything."
And you're
I'm
like,
like,
but
oh my
it
God,
did. Come
look at
see.
this.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
for sure.
all right, we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes now.
Yes, we have.
We could probably keep going.
I could, yeah. We're
But
going to get kicked out.
promo.
Take the riffraff out. Kick 'em
Damascus,
out.
love it.
Thank you,
Review.
Damascus Coffee.
Yes, it was amazing. Cookie, I'm still eating away on it.
Nom, nom, nom.
Probably gonna get another one before I leave. So
Woo!
yeah, so enjoy PawFest.
Paw
Call
Fest.
Katie
Call Melanie too.
and Brittany. We've got to
Yeah,
introduce
of
you and Brittany.
Yeah, I want to know her. She
Yeah.
seems really awesome.
So Brittany
Hi,
Hudson,
Brittany. I'm
shout
Katie. I
out.
want to meet you. Be friends.
Yeah, and this means the world to me because I strongly believe in collaboration.
Absolutely.
I've been trying to do something like this for a while now, and having
Thank you for
people on
having me
board-
and asking me to come and talk with you. I'm grateful for that
Thanks
experience.
for putting up with my questions.
Oh God, ask away.
So, all right, I'm gonna head back up to the Pine Glen Rec Center, get ready for CGN testing. If you
Sweet.
don't know what it is, Google it, check out the site, come stop by, and yeah, you got to do CGN with Minnie. We talked about that.
I know, and I will, but yeah, she's a little bit not ready just yet due to her
We need to
history.
work on that.
Yeah, I need to work on.
No, we need to work on
Oh, yeah, okay, sure. No problem.
that. All right, we're gonna end it here.
Yeah.
See you later.
Have a good
Hope you
day.
enjoyed.
Whee!
I'm hitting end now. Oh, I made it
Bye.
too big so we could see it. I can't end it. Bye again.